Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Plotlines. I'm your host, Connor, and today we're going to be talking about the rise of young American monarchists. Why is this happening? I- Is this a good thing? I'd say it is, but like it's a bit strange, isn't it? I don't think when I was younger, I don't think we would have had this be sort of in the mindset, sort of in the air amongst young people as well as amongst Americans, especially. I think I think when I talk to somebody like uh, Edward Habsburg, Archduke Edward Habsburg, he really seems to think that there's really no shot of the United States becoming a monarchy because our culture or our society has never once had a monarchy, which to me again I question, like, but we did before we rebelled against the British. So wouldn't that mean that we had a monarchy at one point? I'd say at least yes. I mean, I know, of course, the United States has never once had a monarchy, though they did. I believe they wanted George Washington to take on the role. That's why I used in the thumbnail. I created an AI art of George Washington with crown. There were some interesting pieces of AI art that it created for me because it sort of a coronation without a crown, which was weird. I specifically asked the AI for, uh, George Washington wearing a crown and a coronation, but it's sometimes it would give me a coronation without a crown. Sometimes it would give me George Washington with a crown, but not a coronation. So it was a bit odd, but it was just interesting the different AI stuff that can create. Now, so the reason I say that monarchy amongst American youth is on the rise is because I discussed this a little bit briefly, but I wanted to talk in more detail because last week we discussed the coronation and American opinion of the royals and Charles III and that sort of thing. But this is more important. It's funny that the article actually it's titled. Let's see. The article is titled 3 in 5 Americans say it would be bad for the U.S. to have a monarchy. But I think it's missing the most important aspect is the demographic differences. 18 to 29-year-olds believe, or sorry, this is the wrong part. Hold on. Okay, there you go. 18 to 29-year-olds. The question is, uh, do you think it'd be good or bad thing for the United States to have a monarchy? Now, I'm not really. I'm a bit skeptical only in one aspect. When they made this poll, when they asked these questions to these people, because it was all in the context of the UK's monarchy, Charles III and Queen Camilla and Meghan and Harry and that sort of thing, and William and Kate, was that skewing the answers? Was that confusing people? Was that because they were sort of thinking about this British monarchy? Were they then thinking, okay, that's the kind of monarchy that it would be? I don't know. That's an interesting question to think about. But we have the 18 to 29-year-olds have 27% think that it'd be a good thing for the United States to be a monarchy. Interesting, right? 27%. That's a lot. That's a large percentage. Now, 23% don't think it would be neither a good thing nor a bad thing, which I guess that attitude might come from it depends on who the person is. If a monarchy if it was a bad person being the monarch, maybe they think that it'd be a good thing. Maybe if it was they just don't really know. Then 10% aren't different. not sure. 40%, only 40% believe that it's would be a bad thing. Now, let's contrast to 65 and older. 65 and older, 0 of the people polled that were 65 and older said that they would think that it would be a good thing to have a monarchy. 84% say bad thing. And then uh and then you have the middle, the 16 in the middle, who neither think it's a good thing or a bad thing or aren't sure. But even amongst 30 to 40-year-olds or 44-year-olds, 21% think it's a good thing. 11 think it's neither good nor bad, which I think is weird. Neither good nor bad, and not sure. I don't really know what the difference there is. I guess not sure could mean they just have literally no idea and they don't want to say it's a bad thing because they don't really know. They can't imagine it, maybe. And neither good nor bad is like, it wouldn't be a negative, I guess. But you know what I mean? I don't really know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments if you have any ideas what what the difference in the mindset of somebody answering not sure versus neither good nor bad. So 30 to 44 is 21% and 11% neither good nor bad. It's interesting that there's such a large percentage of the people that think that it's neither good nor bad in 18 to 29. Like there's such a middle ground that people are teetering between. It'd be a good thing, and also like, yeah, I don't really know, I'd have to see, kind of thing. And it's really 45 to 64 also has very low opinion. 3% think it's a good thing. So it's really 18 to 44-year-olds have a substantially different opinion on monarchy and the potential of an American monarch than than um than the older generations. Think about it this way. It could be a few things. The monarchy um the monarchy for young Democrats. If they're looking at Charles III, he's embraced a lot of wokery. He's embraced diversity. He's embraced the environmental stuff. So you have that. So are there Democrats that are looking at King Charles and thinking, "Oh, he's a better leader"? Are they seeing the shortcomings of their own ruling class? Are they seeing, "Oh my, this is like they've lost the plot. We have no way of, bringing them back to sanity." Are there those Democrats, like sort of little old school Democrats? Now, Republicans think it's or Republicans are less supportive of a monarchy. They think it's 68% would be a bad thing. Now, are Republicans looking at the British monarchy and thinking the opposite that the Democrats are thinking? Looking at King Charles and thinking he's a WEF, puppet and that sort of thing. Which, I mean, if he's a puppet, it does. I mean, he's more of a puppet of the British government, just the way things are run these days. Not a puppet necessarily of the WEF, since he doesn't really have that much authority. Well, he has a lot of authority, but he doesn't have a lot of power, at least from my understanding of the British Constitution. Um, yes, the public school system teaches the reason America exists is because our forebears overthrew monarchy. But we do go back. That's the thing, is we go back and we learn about the 13 colonies, and we learn, and to be honest, it kind of, I mean, the difference is that it says kind of the parliament or the British government decided to clamp down on the United States, the 13 colonies, and that's why we rebelled. And yes, so I do think that they think back to a sort of quote unquote happier time, and they're thinking, okay, we don't want to change things. Like I talked to my grandfather about this world sort of that he grew up in collapsing, and I feel bad for him, and he's very sad about it. But I think he's not, one of the problems is he's not seeing that world that he thinks existed created the world that exists now. You can't have the world that we live in now, the culture, without having the society that he grew up and spent most of his time a part of, which is interesting. Anyway, so Democrats have a higher view of monarchy. I think that might be because of Charles III. Um, Independents are most likely libertarians and people who sort of are fearful of power. And Democrats are also not fearful of power, so that might be one of the differences. Though, of course, Republicans and Democrats have a very poor understanding of monarchy for the most part. I'm not saying all of them, but it's a trend because we grew up in the society that is told that democracy is all that matters, or the Constitution is all that matters. You might see you might see, what is it, Republicans, or you might see monarchy as a threat to that. And yeah, so that's basically one of the reasons. Now, Blessed Charles of Austria has been or has had a growing cult growing around his approaching sainthood. I mean, he's not a saint yet, and no announcements yet on that, but I have a feeling that we'll see that in my lifetime at least. I mean, he was made a blessed in 2004, I think, or 2000. I think it's 2004 or 2005, something like that. John Paul II made him a blessed, and John Paul II was named after Charles, so it's he had a great connection with him. Now, it's amazing because there are 15 shrines to Blessed Charles in the United States. Let me name let me name them so people, if interested, can go to those places if they so desire. And usually it means basically there are relics of Blessed Charles in this church. So the shrines as follow: St. Basil, the Great Byzantine Ruthenian Catholic Church in California, in Los Gatos; Marianist Community in West Hills, California; St. James Cathedral in Orlando, Florida; St. John Cantius in Chicago; St. Mary's Cathedral Basilica of the Assumption in Covington, Kentucky; Descent of the Holy Spirit Ukrainian Catholic Church in South Deerfield, Massachusetts; St. John the Evangelist Church in New Prague, Minnesota; St. Mary of Victory Church, St. Louis, Missouri; Old St. Patrick's Oratory, Kansas City, Missouri; Our Lady of the Annunciation Monastery, Clear Creek, Oklahoma, which is Clear Creek Abbey, I think. Yeah, I think so. St. Vincent Arch Abbey, Latrobe, Pennsylvania; Prince of Peace Church, Taylors, South Carolina; St. Mary the Virgin Catholic Church, Arlington, Texas; Mater Dei Parish, Irving, Texas; St. Mary Mother of God Church in Washington, D.C. It's interesting. Someone had been asking a question recently, or on Twitter or something like that. Why was the Blessed Charles conference or seminar or whatever, I know that so it was in the Blessed Charles conference or seminar was held in uh, Texas, Fort Worth, I think. And someone asked like why is that the case? And I think it's probably because of these relics. They're already it's already a shrine. There's already a shrine, Irving, Texas, which I think is just outside of Fort Worth. So that explains that. But this devotion amongst young Catholics, especially young Catholics, to Blessed Charles, he's known as the Peace Emperor. He really is the one of the greatest modern examples of monarchy. So, and then you look at our leaders, and this is kind of one of the points is that Blessed Charles is an example of a leader that gives of himself and is unselfish and is worthy of his title, worthy of his authority. Now, you then look at somebody like Joe Biden. He his presidency is an absolute mess. He's very old. His mind is, basically gone, and he's basically a puppet. I don't think people look at that and find comfort. I mean, also just he's incredibly, he has one of the most disliked presidencies. I think his like popularity is in like 40%. I think that's something around there, and it's been there for a while. It's been in the tank for a long time. Um, Anyways, and then you look at somebody who's extraordinarily divisive and brings out a lot of anger, obviously from people who don't like his politics, but even also I think who just don't like the man. You look at Donald Trump, and I don't think he's this unifying figure. I think he's quite divisive. No matter what you think of his politics or what you think of him, he creates this giant backlash, and people want somebody unifying, and that's one of the things is if you look at what a monarchy gives you this unifying figure that kind of everyone can look up to. You don't you sort of you definitely lose that if you don't have a monarchy, if you have an elected president where basically you just need you know more just more than 50% of the vote, and well, actually not even 50. You need the greatest percentage of the vote, and you're the president. Well, the electoral college, you need enough votes in the electoral college, which can be less than spectacular. uh Short Farrell says Biden is an embarrassment both as a Catholic and as a president. Yeah, he's absolutely an embarrassment to the system that we have. So if if you look fondly on the system, if you might still be like, okay, the system can still work. We just need to get a new president, and that will happen in, well, either 1 year or is it 2 years? I think 2 years and 4 year or 6 years, which would be wow. That'd be crazy. I mean, who knows if Joe Biden will even live long enough? And then you have Kamala Harris taking over. I mean, she's just nobody likes her. I mean, she tanked in her own primary, and nobody wants her as president. So that's a big strike against her. But if you're a young person, if you don't have as strong of a connection with the past of the United States, you might come to the conclusion that this whole mess is just not working and that we need something else. We need something different. And yeah, I can see why people look at Biden and Trump and say, well, this isn't working. I don't think anyone looks fondly on Bush. Obama might have some people that think fondly of him, but I think that's lessened over time. And really, Biden really only won because I think because he was considered a moderate because everyone thinks of him as this, old uncle figure, this old grandpa who, he can't be possibly dangerous. He's this, old man who can't be a problem. Like, that might be what people were thinking. And Trump is this divisive figure, so people are like, I'm just done with it. Everyone was like, yeah, no, I just don't want to hear about Trump in the news. And that was probably the mentality. You can say what you want about possible interference or something like that. But I think then also the fact that they changed the voting systems in a lot of places, those are, with the change in the way people vote, trust in the system is, you know, extremely low. Nobody really likes our politicians. I mean, people vote for these people, but they they like their own politicians often. I mean, unless you didn't vote for them, which, like I said, is basically like dividing the country almost at least 60-40 when it comes to like members of the House of Representatives. So no wonder, obviously sometimes it's 50-50, but if you look at, there are places that are really right wing, there are places that are really left wing, and then you just sort of average that out, is that, oftentimes, unless you're really small place, the whole point is that there are a large percentage of the population that are disenchanted because they don't see that their voice is being heard, and they don't have a figure that they relate to or that they put hope in. There's nobody, if you're a Republican, puts hope in Trump. Or not Trump. Nobody put If you're a Republican, nobody puts hope in Biden. That's what I mean. And if you're a and then if you're a Democrat, obviously you don't put any hope in Trump. That you don't have that. You can maybe do that with judges sometimes. I think people are losing respect for judges as well. Unless you have someone ensuring, justice and security and the rights and liberties of a people, you won't have the security, and that's what a monarch is sort of meant to do. That's what the purpose of a monarch is. R. Patterson says, I would rather trade a degree of democracy for the stability that would come with a constitutional monarchy. Yeah. Well, it's one of the things is like this: the United States wasn't meant to be a democracy. It wasn't supposed to get all the people or give all the people a voice. It was supposed to give certain people voice always. It's never been it was never meant to be this democracy. And obviously the Democrats want that, because if they want more of a democracy, because they want, the younger you get voters, the more you can sort of manipulate them. I mean, that's true. If you have 12-year-olds voting, who controls what 12-year-olds think or what they're going to do? Well, their parents might, their teachers might, and you know, leftists are very controlling regarding the teachers unions and stuff like that, so they have a lot of influence there. I mean, I think there were places where there were strikes that would happen, or the students would sort of strike or whatever, or would go outside because of some political thing that happened that they want to show solidarity for. I mean, who do you think put them up to that? That's not something kids do just on a normal, you know, in a normal time. That's something, they're not just planning that themselves. Someone has to tell them either, that this is a good idea. Maybe that's their parents, maybe that's the teachers. And then, it's obvious that the state wants control of your children. that's one of the things that this whole transgender stuff is going, is that they want to control your children. So the government wants to have control over that, and that's why they want to be able to take your children away from you if you're not teaching them the right things. If you're telling them that you can't change gender, or you can't change sex, that you are born this way and therefore you can't do that. If you're teaching them that, if you're teaching them men and women should use, or men should use the male bathroom and women should use the female bathroom, and that you can't change that, then you're going to lose. You're teaching them what's counter to what the authorities want you to teach them. That's not okay in the society anymore. And it's funny, people look at revolutions, and you know there's no good revolution ever since. But what's funny is everyone thinks that they're a revolution even when they're participating in what the government or what the uh, ruling class wants you to do. People have been doing that, thinking that they're participating in revolutions when they're just supporting these leaders that have the most power in the country to begin with. That's been the case ever since 1789, ever since, and arguably even going back, if you in some places going back to the English Civil War. There there is a group of society that has the most power, and they've been dominant and they haven't been restrained, and the only people that ever restrained them were monarchs. And then that's why they needed to cut the head off the monarch, because otherwise the monarch might restrain them, and usually the monarch was often more beloved by the poor people than the rich and the wealthy who funded the revolutions and that sort of thing. And that's just carried on today, but they make certain people think that they are a part of the resistance or the revolution when they're really part of the ruling class, but they're just the pawns of the ruling class. They don't actually have any authority themselves. They're just used by those who think they have the authority. Um, I think Pope Leo XIII expressed reservations about an American form of government, about it leading to a state of moral decay, usury, some such thing. Yes, that's a commonality, that when people when basically you are ruling based on desires of humans, those desires will eventually become morally decayed. You're maybe somebody first desires to have more control over, I don't know, their money. I don't know. They want more control over who they can. Let's see, what's a good example of this, of something that was an early thing. It was more about taking away the differences between the classes, or making everyone the bourgeoisie. In some ways, it's that they think themselves enemies of the bourgeoisie, even though they basically want to be part of the bourgeoisie. They want to be this wealthy class of merchants and that sort of thing. I mean, just look at um, the allies of all these leftist things. It's usually the rich and powerful and the Bill Gates. They have no nobility. They have no honor. All they have is wealth. And even in the French Revolution, the moderates of the French Revolution tend to have some type of title. They had some understanding of their what they were obligated to do, what their roles were meant to be. Like the Marquis de Lafayette, he was a revolutionary at first, and but obviously once things got completely out of hand, he was just as much maligned because he was seen as the protector of the monarch once they took away the monarch's ability to do things, then they wanted to go for his head because he was still being difficult. If a group of people have a desire, a ravenous desire for to the ability to destroy society and to pull things down, they will go through everyone, no matter who it is, no matter if that person was an ally at one point. You see this a lot. It's evil turns on itself. This happens so much in politics these days, as well as it's happened throughout all of history. Um, it's interesting. There's always like useful idiots, people who have some level of influence, maybe in the previous regime or something like that, and then they use them to get what they want, and then they leave them behind. And that's something like the the Duke of Orleans in the French Revolution. He was the cousin of the king, and he voted for the king's death. And he wanted like a constitutional monarchy and stuff like that. Like he wanted to become this liberal icon, and he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't get that. He was just a useful idiot. And even Robespierre dominated for a while, but people get thrown away. And then modern politicians just get elected, make a lot of money, stay in their job as long as they possibly can, be comfortable. They often make a lot of money from the stock market because they know so much that they can make the correct trades, and then they become, you know, they just enjoy their position, and they have some level of authority, and they'd rather stick with that. And they might leave. If you're a president, you leave office, but you're still very influential, and uh you get all these different book deals, and you get podcasts, TV shows. You get everything thrown at you that you could possibly do, especially if you're a liberal. If you're Barack Obama, I don't think he'll have to I don't know if he has to work exactly. I mean, he probably had to, or at least he doesn't have to work much if he doesn't want to, because he has so many opportunities now. I think it's just funny that people say that, like, because there's also like the white privilege thing. Like, if people say this, and then you look at Barack Obama, is he not the most privileged of people at the moment? I would think so. I can't imagine anyone more privileged. Now, what makes up a monarchy? And I think Charles Coulomb puts forward the best description. I'm just going to read this. It Monarchy has 5 hallmarks. A, altar, that is a system under which the Catholic Church to be specific, gives legitimacy to the regime via a coordination rite and other ceremonies, and is the animating philosophy of society. B, throne, that is a sovereign whose authority is grounded in the church and national tradition, and who has sufficient power to protect his people from their politicians. C, local liberties, or what is called today subsidiarity, wherein which as much power as possible would devolve to the lowest possible levels of governance. D, class cooperation, or what is generally called solidarity today and was once called social monarchy. And E, conscientiousness of the nation being part of the greater and loose whole. What do you guys think about that? Any thoughts? I'd love to hear what you think about that description of what a monarchy looks like, or what it would mean in the modern day. This monarchy knows this kind of monarchy knows what it's about. It knows its purpose. It knows where it's heading, and it knows what its job is, and it also knows what the culture is supposed to be as well. And it gives people one of the things I greatly appreciate about the coronation, even in the English monarchy or the British monarchy, is that it raised the culture, I think, in the coronation. People were dressed very well. I mean, it may be a little, maybe it wasn't old fashioned enough in some places. I don't know. But the point, the point might be is that this it raises the quality of the culture over time, and it holds a sense of dignity that most institutions don't have. So I think overall, it's not surprising looking at our politicians that there are a lot of young market monarchists now. I think Blessed Charles is an important figure amongst young Catholics specifically, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if that continues and his cult grows to an nth degree. And I think that the older generations are holding on to some idea of America that may have not existed really, and may have been a hallucination really, or just a mirage that we're coming out of. And they're also basically have been told what to believe about their country for the longest time, and a lot of that is just being peer peeled back, and it isn't looking very good for them. It isn't looking good for what society was. And I don't know. 12% of the United States believes that monarchy would be a good thing. 13% think it's neither a good thing nor a bad thing, and 13% aren't sure. 63% think it would be a bad thing. That's, I don't know if this is what it's similar, or I don't know what different polls have said throughout history about this. Like, what has the American people changed over time? I think it was like it's up 4% or something like that. Let me see if I can find. I think someone tweeted about this. I think it was Eric Salmon's. Let me pull up Eric Salmon's tweet because I tweeted about it as well, or I retweeted because I asked the question: is Blessed Charles, is Blessed Charles one of the reasons? Yeah, I can't find what it was previously, but I don't know how much the American media or pollsters have really polled the American view of monarchy. But I would imagine that this is a new phenomenon for young Americans to be so pro monarchy. I think it's probably used to be much lower and people were less open to the idea. So uh, let me know if you think in the comments. I'd love to hear if you think that's a good thing, if you think it's a bad thing. I've also heard people say that, oh, but there have been Catholic republics in the past, and like the Venetian Republic, the Genoese republics, and those types of things. Those were all kind of still under the protection of an emperor. So, whether it was the Byzantine emperor in the early days of the Venetian Republic, the Genoese Republic, had the Holy Roman Emperor as well. Even if they weren't fully under their control necessarily, and these were institutions surrounding it. You still had the Pope in Rome as the spiritual head, the spiritual monarch, as well as the monarch of the Papal States. You had France on one side too, the Kingdom of France. Basically they were surrounded by monarchies. So I don't know if there are necessarily great representations, but also the Venetian Republic was ruled by a Doge who seemed to have a much more monarchical style, at least. I don't think everyone voted. I'll look more into this. I think it'd be a fun conversation how the Venetian Republic or Genoese Republic or I think the Pisan Republic, something like that. How these functioned, and I'll come back with information in the future. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. I have a great episode coming out tomorrow. Well, in a couple hours, I'll be doing an interview on the coronation with a bunch of people who know much more about the British monarchy, and we'll be talking about the coronation. And I don't think you'll want to miss that. So make sure you also join if you want to have updates and stuff like that about what's going on with the channel. Join the Discord. I think that's the best place. Link to that is in the description. I also have the poll in the description as well that I was examining from YouGov. So thank you all, and God bless. Bye.